Well, hello. It's a rainy Saturday afternoon. At least I think it's Saturday. Yes, it is. It's a rainy Saturday afternoon here in the state of Florida. And I'm very happy to have you here. And we're going to get through this rain. And I know a lot of you need it, and we probably need it too. But sometimes you just wish that things were a little nicer. But hey, what a great time to get on to YouTube and bring some broadcast excellence to some of the best people in the world. I think you guys are the greatest. I think that this channel is the greatest. And I'm very, very happy and excited to be able to bring the information to you that we do. This is new cosmic knowledge. And folks, let's face it, you don't get this anywhere else. And I want to tell you something, ladies and gentlemen, what we're going to talk about today. The Alpha and the Omega, the beginning is the end, the book of Revelation, the book of Genesis, the New Jerusalem. We have been sold a bill of goods, ladies and gentlemen. Revelation happened almost in its totality and entirety between Genesis chapter 1, verse 1 and Genesis chapter 1, verse 2. Robin H., glad you got your MYSTECH band today. Laura, thank you for saying you think I'm the best. And Mr. Alphaster AB3, boom. Nice to see you in the house today. The MYSTECH bands are great. You can see I like them a little bit. You can see Sandra wears them a lot. They've changed our life. And we hope that you will go to jeffreydarty.com, click on the MYSTECH logo, decide what you want, hit the donate button, and you can get 20% off. So help me help you, because MYSTECH breaks off a little piece for me, and I get to do things like go to Brushy Mountain State Penitentiary in a couple weeks with Rex Bear. That's right, I'll be going to jail with Rex Bear, and we'll be there overnight for a great investigation, great and spiritual investigation in that notorious prison. But before that, ladies and gentlemen, let's get into this amazing study, and let's get into it right now. And I think we're going to start in Revelation. And we're going to start in Revelation. You know what? We're not going to start there. We're going to start here, because remember I talked to you last time about Yahweh having a ship. And I think some of you found it a little bit hard to believe that Yahweh might have had a ship. But I'm going to show you directly from the Greek that Yahweh did have a ship. And I want to show you that he had this ship, and I'm going to show you that I believe he had this ship back between Genesis 1:1 and 1:2, and that he destroyed the earth by means of this ship. So I want to show you this, and you're looking at this here, and Yahweh shows up, and this is coming out of Revelation 19. We touched on it in Revelation 4, just a very brief description. Revelation 19 fleshes it out. He that sat upon this horse, so-called, was called Faithful and True. We already saw that this horse was actually a ship with a center council for a captain, voices and lights coming out of the arms of the chair, just like Captain Kirk, elders sitting around, just like the deck of the bridge of a ship or a paramilitary organization. And we saw that without any doubt. And if you have any other doubt, you can get this book, Final Message of the Last Apostle, available in ebook and also paperback, and it proves it all to you. But here comes a guy that says, I'm faithful and true. And it says that he's trustworthy, real and genuine. He's trustworthy, real and genuine. And I remember the master saying, if anyone bears witness of his own self, his witness is not true. So it just seems that he's trying a little bit too hard. He makes war, and it says in righteousness. How could you ever make war in righteousness? It's a Jewish idiom talking about revenge. And then here's where we start seeing that it was a ship. His eyes were as flames of fire. His eyes were as a flame of fire. On his head were many crowns. And he had a name written that no one knew but he himself. Listen for this. His eyes were flames of fire. We get lost in 2,000-year-old religious imagery. You're not 2,000 years ago riding on a donkey down a dusty trail. Sandra right now is riding in a modern car, listening on a modern cell phone, a modern smartphone, as she's driving to a science museum, right? You're not on the back of a donkey or a camel on a dusty road. Stop thinking like, and I don't mean the American dream dusty roads. I mean a dusty road. Stop thinking like they thought back then. Think with a 21st century, 2018 mind. His eyes are possibly lamps, whereas burning flames. That could certainly be the rockets or navigation lights of a spacecraft to a first century eye. Stay with me. On his head, on the top where two walls meet, on the top, the joint of two walls. On the joint of two walls, ladies and gentlemen, there were ornamental bands. On the top where the walls meet, there were ornamental bands, exactly like the descriptions of the marking of a spacecraft decorated for war. And listen to this. He had a name, a character, and a reputation that was covered and hidden as with a cloth. His name, character, and reputation were covered and hidden as if by a cloth. I used to think that this meant when he comes back, he's going to be faking that he's the Lord Jesus Christ. He's going to be faking that he's the Word of God. But I missed the fact that this goes back to Genesis 1 through 2, and in between Genesis 1 and Genesis 2, and I can't reteach the whole series. This is part 3 or 4. Go back and watch the other ones. He came with the name Yahweh, or possibly the name Marduk, but he was neither. He usurped the name. I believe he stole the Imhulu, which may well have been this ship, or at least this ship was equipped with the Imhulu. And his real name, his real character were covered, hidden by a cloth. This being that came saying, I'm God, I'm Yahweh, I'm Marduk. It says he was hiding his real name. He was covering his real name with a cloth. So whether it was Genesis 1, 2, or in the future, which it's not, this being that many of you used to call God, and some of you watching me still call God, is coming back, hiding his real name. And he's already dead and banished, so it can't be future. He came hiding his real name. What kind of a God hides his real name? The kind of God that's not a God. And as we go down more, I want you to see this. He was clothed in a vesture dipped in blood. The name is called the Word of God. Sounds so holy. Here's what it really says in the Greek. He was wrapped in a garment having been stained with hemorrhaging, splattering blood. Sounds like a being that has destroyed worlds and has murdered many, many, many people. From his mouth comes a sharp sword, so that he will strike down the nations. He'll rule them with a rod of iron. From a gash in the face protrudes out a fast and willing sword that smites to death and afflicts a multitude of individuals. Does that sound like a true God? Or does that sound like somebody flying a ship that wreaks havoc and destruction? I'm moving fast, but let's go to Genesis 1:1. In the beginning, the Elohim created the heavens and the earth became without form and void. It wasn't created that way. It became without form and void. Isaiah told us the earth was not created without form and void. And Jeremiah tells us that it became without form and void. And here's what happened. Jeremiah was looking at the earth. It was without form and void. There was no light. The mountains trembled. The hills were moved out of their places. No men, no birds. Fruitful place of wilderness, cities broken down. What? At the presence or at the appearing of the Lord, Yahweh, Marduk, and by his fierce anger. For the Lord said, the whole land shall be desolate. The whole land shall be desolate. That's Genesis 1:1. The gap between Genesis 1:1 and 1:2. And Jeremiah tells us what happened. The Lord swooped down and destroyed the earth. Keep that in mind. Oh, the seals, you're going to take those back to Genesis? Well, we know Yahweh, fake Marduk, swoops down on the earth. A white horse, had a bow, conquering. He opened a second seal. Peace was taken from the earth. Now think of this, ladies and gentlemen. Peace was taken from the earth. Let's see what that word peace is in the interlinear. 6:3. I think this is going to blow your mind. 6:3. What is the word peace? And when he opened the seal, the second one said, and he was granted to take the peace from the earth, the peace from the earth. Definite article, the what? He was allowed to take the peace of mind, the common. He was able to take away the wholeness of the earth. Think about that. That doesn't fit in a future revelation. The earth is not whole. The earth is not peaceful. But in Genesis 1:1, it was created perfect, as Isaiah said. It was not created without form and void, Isaiah said. And you're going to have to look the verse up. I'm not spoon feeding you. The earth was not created without form and void. It was made inhabited, beautiful, perfect. Jeremiah said, there were men, but they're dead. There were birds, but they're dead. There were mountains, but they're knocked down. There were hills, but they're crushed. There were cities, but they're destroyed. There were fruitful places, but they're wiped out. Genesis 1:1, earth was a place of peace, a place of wholeness. Whatever you believe about Revelation, if it's in the future, we know one thing: this is not going to be a place of peace. This is not going to be a place of wholeness. It's the opposite. But it tells us that he came. This second seal, third seal, we'll get back to it, says that peace was taken from the earth. Since Christianity took over 2,000 years ago, since Islam rose 1,000 years ago, since Judaism took over 6, 8, 9, 10,000 years ago, there's never been peace. So I don't know when Revelation, if I'm a futurist, if I'm a Jesuit swallowing eschatologist, I may say I can't tell you exactly when it's going to come, but I can tell you it can't come now or anytime in the future, because this is not, and has not been a place of peace since fake Yahweh, fake Marduk, rat bastard showed up on the scene. So Revelation, the opening of the seals, where peace is taken from the earth, could not have happened today, yesterday, or any tomorrows. It happened back in one time, in one place, when this earth was filled with peace, and this earth was whole, and that brother, sister, is after Genesis 1:1. He took peace from the earth. He took peace from the earth. He took away the wholeness of the earth. He took the peace and he started killing people, just like happened in Revelation 19. The third seal, famine, of course, everything was destroyed. The fourth seal, death, of course, he killed everybody. Martyrs, real people that were worshiping the Elohim, killed. Terror. Can you imagine being in an earth that's never known anything but peace, that's never known anything but wholeness? And here comes this great craft, opening fire, stars of heaven falling to earth, heavens shaking, heavens rolling, departing like a scroll because they're full of fire. So bad that they're saying, please just let something fall on me and kill me, for the great day of wrath has come. And who will be able to stand? The great day of the wrath of Yahweh, Genesis 1:1, between 1:1 and 1:2, that's when the great day of the wrath of Yahweh came. It couldn't have come any other time, because there was not peace or wholeness any other time. The beginning, the end is the beginning. The beginning is the end. Revelation, the book of Revelation, most of it fits in between Genesis 1:1 and 1:2. The rest of it scatters out between the book, throughout the book of Genesis. We'll touch on it. But what we call the second coming, in this destructive act and work of fake Yahweh, is not future. It happened between Genesis 1:1 and Genesis 1, 2. There's no doubt about it. Let me go to the chat room and see what we've got going on in the chat room. See if we've got some good questions. I think we may have some good questions. Let's see. Let's stop the share. The Bible is loaded with encounters of unexplained phenomenon. Yes, it is. I do ship rods to Canada, but it's prohibitively expensive. I'm hiking. This Sunday school kid is not fooled anymore, says AB3. Would a loving God kill his own offspring? Wide is the way that leads to destruction. Narrow is the path that leads to life, and few be that find it. If he's God, if your God, Christian, is God, and most of the people he ever creates wind up burning in a lake of fire forever, what kind of God is that? Is that not a failed God, a flawed God, a phony God, a God that's a failure? Use your head for something other than holding up your hair. Just doesn't make any sense. Please show Jeff some love. That'd be nice. 2009 years of religious rule and everyone is clothed and housed. They failed. I think we hold distant memories of that Genesis 1:1 world. I think we do, Laura, and I think that's what broke through to me. Was the goddess abducted? Maybe. I don't want to tell my little daughters how brutal and bloody the Bible is. They know nothing of it. Read Genesis 1:1, then go look at USC Title 1, says Brian. Jeff was a murderer. He was a murderer from the beginning. The Christ said, the master said he was a murderer from the beginning. Hello, Kat. So this destruction took place that took peace and wholeness from the earth. There's only been one time where the earth was at peace and whole. That was Genesis 1:1. So this had to occur between Genesis 1:1 and Genesis 1:2. That's how the earth became without form and void. That's as clear as it can be. I can't make it any clearer for you. If you can't see that, it just means you're not ready to see that. But the point is, just another confirmation for us that the Bible's 80% dung, and even the part that's not dung is so jumbled. And I would love you good Christians that watch me, you people that aren't ashamed to say Jesus Christ is your Lord and Savior. All you people that love Jesus, you're all Jesused up. I want one of you to explain to me why. The New Testament, 27 books, we know exactly when they were written, within a year or two. Tell me why the order's completely jumbled up. Except for the books of Paul. I got those in perfect order. Amazing. Why? Because when you read somebody's writing sequentially, I've written 14 books. If you read 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, you can follow everything I'm saying. You can follow the development of my thought, and you can follow the development of my spiritual walk. But if you read book 1 and then skip to book 8 and then go to book 6 and to book 3 and to book 11, book 14, book 12, book 9, book 5, book 1, 2, book whatever, you get the point. You won't know what the heck I'm talking about. And that's why they put the books of Paul in order so you could understand the development of Paul's thought and doctrine. And that's why they jumbled everybody else's up, who were the master and the disciples of the master. They jumbled them up so you can't understand the progression of the thought and doctrine. We were set up from the word go, as I spit all over myself. We were set up. It's not your fault that you've been so indoctrinated. It's not your fault that you're under a fear and guilt control matrix. I should say it hasn't been up to now your fault, but now you know. And one of my young subscribers doesn't like it when I say stupid. And if I could think of a better word to describe this, I would. Ignorant is I didn't know. And if you're ignorant, you really can't be blamed, because if you didn't know, you didn't know. But once you know, and you still choose not to receive it, You're not ignorant anymore. You're stupid. I'm sorry. That's just the way it is. And as Pat Blanco says, it's as clear as the day is long. Absolutely. Thank you, Delaney. I really love you too, dude. Even though I know you're a dudette, you know what I mean. Willfully ignorant, says Madame Cat. Exactly right. Let me show you another heavy revelation from the book of Revelation. This one's going to blow your mind. Let me pull it up. Let me find it for you. And this one is going to make so much sense when it hits you that you're going to say, how did we not know this for so long? And I ask myself, how did I not know it for so long? But here it is, ladies and gentlemen, and it's going to blow your mind. Trust me. Revelation chapter 21. Let's go there now. Revelation chapter 21. Let's go there now. We'll get back into the chat room here in just a minute. Okay, so let's set ourselves some context. Revelation 19, you've got the big ship and the destruction, right? And then it goes into Yahweh's demented fantasies, fake Yahweh, fake Marduk. And he goes into these demented fantasies that his adversary, who he calls Satan, who's really the true Elohim, is bound for 1,000 years, and he rules. He's got this demented fantasy, or he had this demented fantasy till he got kicked out of here, banished. He's gone. I'm telling you, watch my video about the God of the Bible is dead or banished and the rise of the new order, something like that. You can search it on this channel. And then Revelation 21 let's look at Revelation 21. And I'm going to show you something that's going to blow your mind. This has already happened, and this is the source of what has us captive today. All right. Revelation 21, supposedly after the bombardment of Yahweh and his ship, after he killed and raped and destroyed, between Genesis 1:1 and 1:2, Yahweh thought he had won. That's what Revelation 20 and 19, or Revelation 20 is about. He actually thought he was going to win. He bound his enemies. He thought that he was going to win. He thought he had won. Think about it from Yahweh's point of view. Think about it from Yahweh's point of view. He's just flown his ship into Earth's atmosphere and has devastated the planet, all but destroying the planet. And the only reason he didn't destroy it is so he could rule it. So he's destroyed the planet. In his mind, he's bound his enemies. In his mind, his captives have been destroyed. His adversaries have been destroyed. So then he implements his great New Jerusalem matrix. Watch this, ladies and gentlemen. And there, in his mind, he thinks his enemies are bound. So he thinks his enemies are over. So he does this. And I saw a new heaven and a new earth. For the first heaven and the first earth were passed away. Oh, we got to do some interlinear Greek on this. And I saw a heaven new. What does that mean? I saw a novel heaven. It was a new quality. It was not exactly like it was before. I found it had been changed. The heavens, the skies themselves were changed. And then the earth, even the earth. The land is changed. Do you get that? The sky is changed. The land is changed. The first had passed away. The first had departed. The first had been destroyed by Yahweh's craft, by the Mhulu. And there wasn't even any more sea. That might mean people. Sea sometimes mean lots of people. because it clearly says that the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters, the Spirit of the Elohim. So I think we need to take C in the instance of there being a lot of people. The sea was not any longer. He killed everybody. There were no more people left. That's called biblical interpretation, letting text interpret text. The sea's there in Genesis 1:2. The Spirit of the Elohim's hovering on the face of the waters. Waters are seas, sea are waters. But sea, sometimes in biblical prophecy, in epic biblical literature, means people, lots of people. There was no more sea. Well, we know from Genesis 1:2 there is sea. So we go back, oh, was there any people? No, Jeremiah tells us he killed them all. So there was no longer any sea. All the people were dead. He killed them all. And he put something new in the sky. And he put something new over the earth. What was it? It was the new Jerusalem. And it came down out of heaven, being prepared as a bride, being adorned for the husband of her. Now, I might get married again someday. In fact, there's a real good chance of it. But in the biblical sense, the Jewish sense, the Christian sense of marriage, the concept is that the man, the male, has dominion over the woman. It's called the woman has to submit to the man. So when this new Jerusalem comes down and the bride being prepared for her husband means get ready to get raped because here I come. You are subject to me. You must submit to me. You may not speak unless spoken to. You may not have any authority over a man. You may not have your own ideas. You must stay at home and not work. This is biblical marriage, ladies and gentlemen. Not the marriage that I'm going to practice, but that's the marriage within the context of this narrative. We have to understand that. So what we're talking about, this new Jerusalem is a new heavenly, atmospheric, and earthbound system of bondage, I can't say this tactfully, keeping people in a Stockholm syndrome, keeping people hostage. Exactly what Sandra's been talking about on her show, the last three, with that great, I think it was a 3-part series on empaths, psychopaths, narcissists, highly sensitive people. It's the same exact thing. He brought this system down upon us. He brought this system down upon us. And there's not going to be any more death, sorrow, crying, no more pain, as long as you do what he says to do, how he says to do it, when he says to do it, where he says to do it. That's exactly how the psychopath works. Do what I say, when I say, where I say, how I say, give me what I want, when I want it, and I'll give you a nice cage to live in. That's what psychopaths say. Sandra D knows all about it. She's teaching you about it. And we know all about it because we've lived under it for at least 2,000 years. That's how psychopaths work. And if you go down and read about this new Jerusalem, and if you do the math on it, it gives you the dimensions. What you end up with is probably a tetrahedron type cube, maybe even gulp, a Merkaba, maybe even gulp, a Merkaba, Merkaba. I'm not sure how you pronounce it. I say Merkaba. If I'm wrong, somebody tell me. We've been taught this new Jerusalem's going to come down in the future. It's not, because now we know this happened between Genesis 1:1 and 1:2. So Yahweh, when he thought he won, brought down some type of a grid, a matrix grid in the atmosphere around this planet. Some of us have seen it in the astral realm. I know what I'm talking about. He brought down a control grid to this earth as well. Some of us have seen it. We know what we're talking about. It's probably, I agree with Brad, probably a huge Borg cube, just like the big one at Mecca. Listen to this. Merkabah, thank you. Listen to this. When Yahweh destroyed the perfect earth between Genesis 1:1 and 1:2, fake Yahweh, fake Marduk, he instituted some type of a grid system in the atmosphere of this planet and a grid system on the ground of this planet. This is the matrix. This is the hardware of the matrix. This is the template. This is the wiring of the matrix. It was put in place between Genesis 1:1 and 1:2, and this is part of the Jesuit lie. Make them think it's future, so they never have any concept that it's on us right now. And here I come saying, whoa, it's been on us ever since Yahweh, fake Marduk, destroyed the earth between Genesis 1:1 and 1:2. For tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, perhaps, of years, we've been living under a grid, mechanical, at least electrical, some energetic matrix that surrounds this earth. Laura says maybe the planets are part of the matrix. Maybe they are. But the New Jerusalem is the control grid. It's the control matrix. It's what we've been under for all these thousands of years. And now that the dude that was running that matrix has been deposed, Brett, it's not hate if someone disagrees with your presumptions with counter presumptions, but I think we should find a way to reach out across the aisle. If you're flat earth and I'm round earth, we may not agree on that, but there's many other things that we can continue to agree on and have fellowship with each other around. Sorry for the around part. He destroys the earth. He puts up this control grid, and we've been living under it ever since. Now we know. Now we know the guy that was keeping the grid is gone. He's debased. He's out of here. He's suffering a fate worse than death. We talked about that on the Millstone show. Look it up. So now we know that we're free. Or now we know at least we've identified the enemy. We know what's going on. So we can step up and free ourselves. The book of Revelation is in the book of Genesis. The book of Genesis is in the book of Revelation. The beginning really is the end, and the end really is the beginning. That's what spiritual minds, people with eyes to see. You know, the master said, I'm only talking to people with eyes to see and ears to hear. Every one of us can see in 3D, except for those of us that are visually impaired. Every one of us can hear 3D. But these words are written for people that can see beyond 3D, that can hear beyond 3D. And it makes perfect sense. In fact, it's the only way it makes sense. The book of Revelation talks about the world between Genesis 1:1 and 1:2. It talks about how Yahweh destroyed the earth, and it talks about the grid control system he set up that we're still under today. You've been afraid of a God that's not real. You've been serving a system that has no power. All praise to Sandra. Jeff's finally got it. You know what? There's probably more truth to that than you know, because when she came into my life, I received a lot of balance that I hadn't had. Some people say I went soft. I didn't go soft. I just went balanced. And I do owe her a lot. There's no doubt about it. And I hope that some of it's going back her way as well. And we got a great announcement we're going to announce. You know, I'll do it here too. We'll also announce it on Wayne's show tomorrow, the show I do with Wayne, the Not Your Normal Sunday show. as of August 1st, Sandra and I are moving in together. So we're progressing on down the path. I want to thank you for all your well wishes and your kind words. So we are moving in together and continuing things down the road. So yes, all praise to Sandra. Somebody says, yes, Sandra has calmed him down. Let's go back into the chat room. That's really all I have to say. It's not like I said anything interesting, but the Borg cube cometh. Absolutely. I'm getting braver. I posted Jeff's last video to my extensive Christian friends and family. Oh boy, that'll be fun. I empower myself with the Christ consciousness. Watch Jeff's videos on the James heavy stuff. Thank you. I believe in unity, unified consciousness, the source of the loving and whole bunch. The Borg cube cometh. It's so difficult to break free of the God spell until you just decide to do it. I use the word respect instead of testify. Brother Jeff knows why. Anyone seen the codes from Neo Glimmer? Nope. It translates to all the truths Jeff talks about. There was something about read between the lines of Revelation. Maybe we should try to get them on this channel. Next Tuesday, I'm going to have Magenta Pixie on the channel. Greetings to you in Beirut. Thank you for the thumbs up. Jerusalem is the place in the sky, not on earth. Congrats, Jeff and Sandra. Thank you very much. The kingship descended from heaven. I deny this rapture. I deny your second coming. Good for you. The schematic of the New Jerusalem is a giant Borg cube. Yo, you weren't kidding. It is so obvious, right under our noses. Nothing coming from outside. It's all inside. The kingdom is within. Maybe all the planets are part of the matrix. What difference does it make? Arguing about the shape of the cage. It's a good point. The dome, Jeff, this is so beautiful. Thank you. Magenta Pixie, yep, been watching. Dirty Hands from the Garden. All right. How do you break out of this prison, or what you call the matrix? By doing the inner work. Plain and simple. Sandra's been my meditation teacher for the past month, and I'm up to 20 minutes a day, 2 10-minute sessions. And you say, oh, all praise to Sandra. And obviously she has brought a lot of great stuff into my life, but meditation has done a great work in me. And of course, Sandra brought me to that meditation. So you can still give Sandra the credit. And I do. I give all the credit. I like what you said, all praise to Sandra. And it's just going to get better from here, ladies and gentlemen. But now you know that the beginning is the end is the beginning. The book of Revelation is in the book of Genesis. And they tried to tell us the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end and the beginning. They tried to tell us. What does it do physically to you? Well, I'm also going to get off of caffeine, but I find myself physically to be more calm, more relaxed, more centered. I find myself to be more flexible. And I find myself to be able to concentrate better. And it's becoming easier to use my inside voice. Sometimes I get excited, of course, but it makes it easier to use my inside voice. Sandra will teach you meditation. She's taught me, and it's tremendous. And we are doing the 12-day shield every morning, whether we're together or not. We do it remotely. That's from Lisa Renee. Powerful stuff. And this is how you free yourself from the fear and guilt control matrix. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. I recommend you watch this over a few times. I recommend you get this down on the inside. I recommend that you continue to ask questions. I recommend that you continue to question answers. Oh, this is nice. You guys inspired Dana and I to start meditating. We've done it almost every day this week together. And she says desperately, I think she means separately. Dana says he's more on point. Have to get with Sandra for more instruction. Yes. Thanks for that. Thanks for that for you as well. Well, folks, ask questions, question answers. You are divine. You are sovereign. You are free. Hit the like button. Share the video. And more than anything else, remember, only you can visit jeffreydarty.com and get MYSTECH. Only you can get rods and spiritual services from me or Sandra. But more importantly, only you are the GTA, the Gospel Truth Army, and I salute you. And only you can unindoctrinate yourself.